My stepmom made me give my newly finished wedding dress to my stepsister. After fighting her off to no avail, I gave up. That night, she discovered the dress was stuck to my stepsister's skin. To get it off, she'd have to literally tear off a layer of skin. She came crying and begging me for help, but I could only shake my head. Stealing a ghost's wedding dress isn't as simple as just ripping off some skin. My name is Annie, and I was born with the ability to see ghosts. Ghosts with unfinished business often come to me for help. This time it was a female ghost in a red dress, who I called Red. Red was beheaded by a robber before she died. Her resentment was so strong that she became a vengeful spirit after death, and ripped the robber apart. Her biggest wish was to wear a wedding dress and marry the person she loved. The dress is easy, but your loved one? You don't expect me to kill someone for you, do you? Red chuckled. In the dim light, the girl in the red dress stood before me, holding her own head in her arms. As she laughed, the lights flickered, and a cold breeze swept through the room. If my nerves weren't so good, I would have freaked out right then and there. Me, hold on, that's seriously creepy. Red awkwardly stopped laughing. How about you help me with the wedding dress first? I regretted saying the dress would be easy. It took me 3 months to get that dress done for her. I hung the wedding dress in front of the full-length mirror, thinking I'd let Red check it out that night. I lay down on the bed and fell asleep without realizing it. Half asleep, I thought I saw someone open my bedroom door. In this house, the biggest difference between me and ghosts is that they can see me. When they're in a bad mood, they'll make snarky comments. But I never let them get away with it, so no one dared to enter my room easily. My eyelids were too heavy, so I just rolled over and kept sleeping. When I opened my eyes again, the wedding dress was gone. Downstairs in the living room, all the aunts and uncles I hadn't seen in ages were there. Daisy stood in the middle of the crowd, wearing the wedding dress, looking just like a little princess. My arrival instantly chilled the previously lively atmosphere. Daisy smiled sweetly and took my wrist, as if we were close sisters. But the fingers under my arm were digging into my skin. Sister, don't you think this wedding dress is beautiful? I couldn't help but roll my eyes at her. Of course, it's beautiful. You'll look even prettier when you're dead. Seriously, take that dress off right now. As I said that, I tried to pull Daisy away. She suddenly pushed me, crossing her arms over her chest and guarding herself fiercely, tears streaming down her face. She looked so wronged, like I was the one who stole the dress. Sister, why are you treating me like this? If you like it so much, I'll just give it to you later. I laughed, annoyed. I made this dress with my own hands, and now you're saying you'll give it to me? Is there a meteor crater in her brain or something? It's huge. I couldn't be bothered to argue with her, so I kindly warned her, you can't afford to offend the owner of this dress. Take it off now. As soon as I said that, Daisy cried even harder. She was playing the victim, plain and simple. My patience ran out. Don't say I didn't warn you. If you take it off now, there's still a chance to fix this. Otherwise, you're going to die a terrible death. I wasn't trying to scare her. Taking a vengeful spirit's clothes means paying with your life. Even though I hated her, it was still a human life. She hadn't worn it for long, so it hadn't picked up too much of the ghost's energy. I could still figure out a way to help her. But if she wore it for too long, the vengeful spirit would track her down through the energy. Smack. My face was stinging, turned to the side from the force of the slap. My stepmom stood in front of Daisy, glaring at me furiously. It's just an inanimate object, and you're cursing your sister over it? Exactly, Annie, you're in the wrong this time. How can you be so malicious? My aunt chimed in. The other relatives also started to condemn me. I told them she shouldn't be home today. She just upsets Daisy. Yeah, she's been like this since she was little, an ungrateful brat. My stepmom leaned down, whispering to my ear, gritting her teeth, if you don't give this dress to your sister today, I'll have your mom's grave moved and you'll never find it. She spoke so softly that only we could hear her. I instantly exploded in anger and shoved her away. She stumbled back a couple of steps and fell right onto my dad, who had just walked in. Mink. So that's what they were waiting for. My dad protectively helped my stepmom up, then turned to me. Inevitably, I got another earful. Meanwhile, my stepmom, with tears in her eyes, stroked my dad's back, muttering, "Don't blame Annie, She definitely didn't mean to push me. It's all Daisy's fault for wearing this dress and upsetting her sister. My dad's anger, which had just died down, flared up again, and he pointed at my nose, yelling that I was worse than an animal. Great. This whole family deserves whatever they get. I didn't say anything else, got up, and left. Just as I took 2 steps, the door opened, and I saw my ex-boyfriend. I suddenly remembered my dad mentioning that Daisy was bringing her boyfriend home today. What I didn't expect was that her boyfriend would be Tom. No wonder Tom suddenly broke up with me back then, disappearing without a single reason. Daisy rushed into Tom's arms the moment she saw him, sobbing uncontrollably. Annie, did you bully Daisy again? I know you can't get over me, but it's been so long since we broke up. You need to give up. I only love Daisy. I looked at him like he was an idiot. Where's your face? Did your mom flush it out with her poop when she gave birth to you? Sister, how can you talk to Tom like that? Is it just because of a dress? Daisy slowly approached me, finally stopping beside me and saying in a voice only we could hear, people need to know their place. You're just not as charming as I am. This wedding dress looks better on me than on you. You can't win against me, and you can't win this dress either. I advise you not to waste your energy, or I won't make things easy for you. After that, she raised her voice, a slight sob in her tone. If you really like it, little sister can give it to you. Saying that, Daisy tried to pull off her dress. But as soon as she tugged, it hurt so much that tears streamed down her face. Tom lovingly pulled her into his arms, glaring at me fiercely. But I didn't care at all, because the vengeful spirit would be here soon. I gently curved my lips into a smile. Someone will naturally come for that dress, Daisy. See you never. With that, I turned and left. As I reached the middle of the stairs, I glanced at Daisy out of the corner of my eye. She was trying to tug at the wedding dress, but quickly gave up. She probably thought it was just caught on something, which was why it wouldn't come off. Because the next second, she happily linked arms with Tom and went to greet the relatives. Grumble. Grumble. A spherical object rolled across the second-floor landing. Then a head rolled past my feet, its long hair brushing my instep, sending a chill down my spine. I pretended nothing happened, calmly and quickly went upstairs, and stood at the corner of the second floor to observe Daisy. She clearly heard the sound too and turned her head to look, her eyes meeting Red's head on the floor. My heart instantly leaped into my throat. Ah, a ghost. Daisy's shrill scream almost burst my eardrums. She buried her head in Tom's arms, trembling and pointing at the floor. Tom looked down, then frowned and comforted Daisy. You must be seeing things. It's nothing. If there's a ghost, I'll beat it to death. Don't be scared. Then hurry up and do it. Daisy pushed Tom away. His foot passed right through Red's head. Tom, his back to Daisy, dropped his facade and sighed, even muttering idiot under his breath. Then he turned back with a smile. See? There's nothing there. Grumble. Red's head rolled to Daisy's feet, her hair wrapping around Daisy's calves. Ah. She frantically tried to escape, her legs tangled in hair, with a head floating behind her. The others present didn't see Red's head, they only saw Daisy running around like crazy. She was cornered, trembling all over, tears flowing uncontrollably. Please, please let me go. I'll give you anything. Red's head floated in midair, her eyes staring directly at Daisy. I want you to die. Daisy finally couldn't take it anymore. Her eyes rolled back and she fainted. Just as I was completely absorbed in watching, someone patted me on the back, making me jump. I turned around to see a headless body in front of me, a clean scar on its neck, even still bleeding. A wronged voice then spoke behind me. Annie, my dress. I wiped a cold sweat off my forehead. I couldn't take this life for another day. In the living room downstairs, Tom picked up Daisy, and my dad and stepmom followed anxiously behind them. The other relatives exchanged glances, and also left. The previously noisy house suddenly became quiet, leaving only Red and me. I went back to my room and hugged the plush toy on my pillow. I thought, if Mom were still here, she'd be worried about me the way my stepmom worries about Daisy. Red saw my mood was off and quietly sat beside me, but the head in her arms was staring directly at me. The scene was genuinely terrifying. At 3 a.m., I was sleeping soundly when my door was suddenly kicked open. How can you still be sleeping? My stepmom pulled at me while cursing wildly, a lot of it involving my mother. I guessed right away that my dad wasn't home. Otherwise, she would have put on her innocent act instead of acting like a total maniac. Tell me, were you playing tricks to scare Daisy? I sat on the bed, yawned and didn't answer her, instead looking at Daisy, who was hiding behind her. Her face was so pale, you could say she'd been whitewashing walls. Her eyes were deeply sunken, and dark energy emanated from her brows. It seemed her time was running out. I raised my chin and pointed at Daisy. Can you still take off the dress you're wearing? Hearing that, my stepmom's gaze also fell on Daisy. Daisy tentatively touched the wedding dress, her eyes instantly widening in disbelief. What she felt was her own skin. My stepmom also sensed something was wrong, and went behind Daisy to find the zipper. Pulling it off wasn't just a simple tug, it ripped off a piece of skin, making Daisy jump high in pain. Mom. Daisy stomped her foot, her voice tearful, looking at my stepmom reproachfully. At the same time, she reached to touch her back, and when she brought her hand forward, her fingers were stained with blood. What is this? My stepmom lost her usual arrogant demeanor, barely able to speak. That wedding dress you're wearing was made for a ghost. I paused for 2 seconds, then added, oh, and it's a vengeful spirit. Stealing a vengeful spirit's clothes isn't as simple as just tearing off a layer of skin. The vengeful spirit will use this dress to absorb your life force, gnaw at your flesh, and the remaining parts will completely merge with the wedding dress. Hearing this, both of them were completely stunned. After a few seconds of their brains rebooting, my stepmom furiously slapped me again. Why didn't you say so earlier? You deliberately want to see your sister die? UBTCH, you're too malicious. I'm going to kill you. Saying that, she reached to grab my hair. I dodged, kicked her in the stomach, and sent her sprawling to the ground. If I had said something earlier, would you have believed me? My stepmom's rebuttal was stuck in her throat. The three of us knew very well that they wouldn't have believed me. Instead, they would have cursed me for being superstitious, and then used it as an excuse to complain to my dad that I was cursing my sister to avoid lending her the dress. They had pulled this trick too many times. So, why should I bother making myself uncomfortable? Besides, I did warn them they brought this upon themselves. Daisy stood there stunned, her lips white, trembling all over. I think she probably remembered Red's headless body. You're talking nonsense. You definitely tampered with the wedding dress, and are trying to scare me with some ghost trick. I won't fall for your trap. Mom, let's go back to the hospital. I don't believe the hospital can't do anything about this. My stepmom seemed to be re-energized by that remark and immediately glared at me again. Right, let's go. Mom will take you to the best hospital. If that's how it was, I had nothing more to say. I lazily leaned against the headboard and tucked myself into bed. Don't say I didn't warn you. If you go to the hospital, you'll be treated like a monster and taken for research. Then you'll suffer double the torment. Daisy's steps faltered in fear, and she was at a loss, turning her head to look at my stepmom. Mom, it's okay, Mom has a plan. My stepmom tenderly pulled Daisy into her embrace and led her out the door. I looked at the broken door, hanging loosely, and felt an unspeakable sadness. Hugging the plush toy by my bed, I buried my head in its neck, as if I were lying in my mother's arms. Mom, just a little longer. I didn't see Daisy or my stepmom all day the next day. It wasn't until dinner that I saw Daisy at the dining table. Her face was still pale, but not as bad as I'd expected. She seemed quite relaxed, even humming a tune. Seeing me, she rolled her eyes and snorted. Some people think they're so great and that no one else can do anything. They probably waited all night for us to come back and beg them, huh? But sorry to disappoint you. She shook her head smugly and took a big bite of her bread. My gaze quickly swept over her. The wedding dress was clearly still on her, so what was going on? I casually sat down across from her and pushed a glass of water towards her. Here, catch this. All the water in your brain is spraying onto my face. You. She slammed her hand on the table in anger, then suddenly remembered something and snorted, pulling her lips into a sneer. It's fine, I won't bother arguing with you. Me. Normally, Daisy would definitely get into a huge fight with me, so her behavior today was really out of character. I instinctively leaned back, my eyes falling on Daisy's lower body. Wait, where was the skirt of the wedding dress? I suddenly looked at Daisy. You cut off the skirt? Yeah. Daisy lifted her chin, looking all smug and impressive, but in my eyes, she was just an idiot. I had no idea who gave her such a terrible idea. The skirt of the wedding dress had a crinoline supporting it, so it hadn't been in long-term contact with Daisy's body and hadn't grown onto her. By cutting off the skirt and putting it on someone else, the vengeful spirit's attention would shift to that person. But that would only be temporary. Once the vengeful spirit discovered it had been tricked, plus the dress being ruined, it would only make the ghost even angrier. It seemed like she had dodged a bullet, but in reality, she was accelerating her death. All I cared about now was, who did she put that part of the wedding dress on? Daisy, with a spoon in her mouth, made a video call, constantly glancing at me. As soon as the call connected, a familiar voice came from the other end. Honey, I can't pick you up tomorrow. Daisy coquettishly smoothed back her non-existent hair, and when she spoke, goosebumps erupted all over me. Tom, sweetie, you look so pale, you should get some rest. I'm fine. Hearing that, I had a faint suspicion. While Daisy was blushing and flirting with Tom, I snatched the phone. Tom was leaning weakly against the pillow, his face pale, looking as bad as Daisy had yesterday. Annie, even if you like me, you can't just snatch someone's phone to see me. I've told you many times I only love Daisy. You should just give up. I rolled my eyes at him. Sicko. Then I threw the phone back. Although sometimes I felt he deserved to die, and it would be best if he and Daisy were stuck together forever so they wouldn't ruin anyone else's life, in this matter, he was ultimately an innocent person. He might have been a jerk, but he didn't deserve to die. After much hesitation, I left, hoping to stop Red before she took action. The night was dark and heavy, with only the dim streetlights casting faint light on the winding road. As I reached the bottom of Tom's apartment building, I heard the sound of breaking glass above me. I instinctively ran further away. Then with a thud, the ground trembled. Tom fell not far from me, his eyes wide open. Damn it. I was still too late. A dense black mist floated down from above, and when it dissipated, Red's ghostly form was revealed before me. The head in her arms looked at me furiously, her hair standing on end, and she was biting Tom's arm. Blood dripped from the corners of her mouth onto the ground. It looked like Red's resentment had intensified after she realized she'd been tricked. Now, she wanted to bite anyone she saw. Just as I was thinking this, Red shook off Tom's arm and lunged at me with her terrifyingly wide mouth. Her body followed her head, hands outstretched, ready to tear me apart. I pulled out a talisman and threw it at her. While Red was restrained by the talisman, I pulled out a gourd. Many years ago, I met a Taoist nun named Sarah. She said we had a connection and gave me these things, also teaching me a few incantations. She said I would definitely use them one day. I concentrated and held my breath, loudly chanting the incantation. Red's soul transformed into a wisp of black smoke and was sucked into the gourd. I breathed a sigh of relief and gently stroked the gourd. It's okay, get some good sleep. After doing all that, I examined Tom's body. Sure enough, it was Daisy's doing. She had turned the wedding dress's skirt into a tank top and made Tom wear it directly against his skin. But looking at the fabric, some of it must have been somewhere else. I suddenly had a bad feeling. After calling the police, I rushed home. When I got home, my dad was drinking hangover soup. I rushed over, snatched his bowl, and straightened his body. His cheeks were rosy with no abnormalities. Not giving up, I reached out to grab his collar. My dad pulled my hand away. His eyes glazed over as he looked at me. And, why is our daughter so much trouble? And that was my mom's name. I ruthlessly pulled my hand away and threw the hangover soup in front of him. You don't deserve to say my mom's name. Hearing that, my dad sobered up a bit, his pupils contracting as he focused on me. Before he could speak, I turned and went upstairs, not giving him any chance to scold me. I just heard him let out a long sigh. Back in my room, I calmed down for a while before changing out of my clothes and getting ready for bed. But the moment I picked up my nightgown, I felt something was off. I turned it inside out to check. Sure enough, the remaining wedding dress fabric was hidden inside my nightgown. So calling Tom in front of me was deliberately to get me to leave the house. But by doing this, she directly caused Tom's death. I took off the lining, put on the nightgown, and then released Red. At this point, Red had calmed down, and her gaze towards me was still as fervent. Annie, what happened to me just now? I tried hard to force a smile. It's nothing. I just put you in the gourd to nourish your soul. Oh, as long as I didn't hurt you. She lowered her head, like a child who had done something wrong. My eyes felt a little sore. I looked up and blinked hard, but a single tear still stubbornly fell. Red's hand passed through my cheek, uselessly trying to wipe away my tears. I'm so useless. I can't even do such a small thing. She looked at me self-reproachfully, her eyes full of distress. I instantly broke down, tears streaming down my face. I turned away, trying to avoid her gaze. Ugh, seriously, this is so emotional. As soon as I turned around, the light from the crack under the door was partially blocked. I frantically wiped away my tears and quietly slipped under the covers. As the door was pushed open a crack, I heard someone gasp. Clearly, she saw Red by my bed. Grumble. Red's head rolled over, then floated up again. A chilling voice sounded in my ear. "I found him. Hihihi." Ah. Daisy shrieked and turned to run. But Red's hair wrapped around her neck. Just like that, Daisy had a head hanging from her neck, followed by a headless ghost. She ran screaming, "Why are you chasing me? Go chase Annie. She has the wedding dress too, go on." After a few minutes of running, her face turned purple, her hands clutching her throat, and she collapsed to her knees. My stepmom and dad heard the commotion and rushed over anxiously. My stepmom held Daisy's hand, too distressed to speak, only tears streaming down her face. Daisy looked past them to me, a flicker of hope in her eyes. Save me." I threw the nightgown lining in her face. "Why do you think I should save you?" Seeing the wedding dress, Red let out a piercing shriek. The hair wrapped around Daisy's neck loosened, each strand standing on end in midair. Daisy gasped for air in the sudden reprieve. When she saw the ghost's body growing larger, she froze in terror. A foul smell filled the air. Daisy, what's wrong? Don't scare Mom. Annie, please save her. Please." Even though my stepmom couldn't see Red, she knew Daisy's unusual behavior was related to the vengeful spirit. She knelt before me, her head thudding against the floor. I just calmly watched her. "You want me to save her? Fine, but I have one condition. Tell me, no matter what it is, I'll agree to it." I gently curved my lips, saying each word clearly. "I want to know how my mom really died." My stepmom, who had been kneeling, plopped onto the floor, her eyes darting away. She just ran into a robber." As soon as she finished speaking, I reached out and ripped off Daisy's nightgown, revealing the wedding dress, which had been cut in half. Red's eyes were bloodshot, almost dripping blood. She opened her gaping maw and bit fiercely into Daisy's shoulder. Ah. Daisy squeezed her eyes shut and recoiled. Rip. A chunk of flesh was torn off, exposing bone. Ah. This time it was my stepmom. She broke down, hugging Daisy and trying to stop the blood with her hands. But it was useless. Blood seeped through her fingers and dripped onto the floor. I took a step forward. My mom was in this much pain too, wasn't she? Even more so. She was literally beheaded. My stepmom's body trembled violently, her nerves on the verge of collapsing. I glanced at Red, who had finished devouring the flesh and was baring her crimson teeth, ready to strike again. "Are you going to tell me or not?" I took out a talisman and pressed it closer to my stepmom, preparing to form a hand seal with my other hand. My stepmom finally burst into tears, hugging Daisy and sitting helplessly on the floor. I'll tell." Just as Red was about to bite Daisy, I slapped the talisman onto Red's head. As the last incantation was spoken, Red once again returned to normal. Daisy breathed a sigh of relief, leaning limply in my stepmom's arms. A private doctor quickly arrived. After stopping Daisy's bleeding, he suggested taking her to the hospital immediately. My stepmom glanced at me, thanked him, and sent him away. The whole family sat neatly at the dining table. I specifically pulled up a chair next to me. My dad looked puzzled. "What's this for?" "For my mom to sit on." I faintly smiled at Red, who was next to the seat. She probably felt out of place sitting there and started to get up, But after seeing my smile, she sat back down. My stepmom and dad looked at me in shock, probably thinking I had a mental illness. But Daisy's eyes widened, carefully examining Red, as if confirming whether this was really my mom. My stepmom suddenly let out a soft laugh, breaking the heavy atmosphere. All of this you did on purpose, didn't you? I smirked. Indeed, my stepmom's insight is sharp. I was deliberate. All of this. And Red is my mom. My parents started from nothing, and they used to be very in love. But most people can only share hardships, not good times. After my mom got pregnant, my dad used the excuse of letting her rest to make her quit her job and stay home. She was home for 8 years. After my mom resigned, my dad immediately hired a secretary, who is now my stepmom. When I was 7, my mom went out to buy groceries, encountered robbers, and not only was she robbed, but she also lost her life. But I always felt there was something strange about my mom's death. She told me she was going out to buy groceries, but she wore a bright red dress. My dad gave it to her for New Year's, and she never dared to wear it unless there was a special occasion. Also, I heard that my stepmom and my mom encountered robbers together that day, but my stepmom was completely unharmed. Less than a year after my mom passed away, my stepmom moved in with Daisy. I was living in my own home, but it felt like I was living under someone else's roof. I endured countless provocations and bullying from Daisy and her mom, all to find out the truth about my mom's death. My mom came back on the night she died. Her bright red dress was covered in blood. She stood at the door, smiling at me. Her head was in her arms, her face covered in scars, some flesh even exposed. I was terrified, but I wasn't afraid of my mom's ghost. Instead, I knew clearly that my mom was dead, and she could never hug me again. Maybe because she died in such pain. My mom's soul lost her memory, she forgot everyone but me. She always stayed by my side, attaching herself to the plush toy on my bed during the day and chatting with me at night. At first, I insisted on calling her mom, and she seemed very distressed. As I called out, her ghostly form gradually grew larger. She attacked me like she was insane. That was the first time I saw a vengeful spirit, and it was also when I met Master Sarah. She helped calm my mom down and said, "Your mom still has some unfinished karma, and cannot go to the afterlife yet. To truly free her, you need to help her fulfill what's on her mind." So I often asked her what her wishes were, but she thought for a long time and couldn't think of anything. Until that day, she told me she wanted to wear a wedding dress and marry the person she loved. The style of the wedding dress she described was exactly the one I saw in a magazine that year. Back then, I was very young, sitting in my mom's arms, pointing at the wedding dress in the magazine, clumsily imitating adults, and telling her, "When I grow up, I want to wear this wedding dress and marry the person I love." My mom gently stroked my hair and said, "Okay, our Annie will definitely be the most beautiful bride." At that time, she must have been imagining me in a wedding dress, right? Unfortunately, she was forever stuck in that summer. I investigated for a long time, but couldn't find the real cause of my mom's death. The only breakthrough was my stepmom, who was robbed at the same time as my mom, but she clearly wouldn't tell me. She cared most about Daisy, so I decided to start with Daisy. That wedding dress style was too old, no physical stores sold it. So I spent 3 months making this wedding dress myself. And the materials used on it were all obtained from my ghost friends. As long as a person wears it, it will merge with their skin, and they won't be able to take it off. And I knew that anything I liked, Daisy would definitely try to steal. The perfect opportunity for Daisy to wear this wedding dress was when Tom came to visit. Because she not only wanted to show off to Tom, but also wanted Tom and all our relatives and friends to know that I was a malicious sister, who couldn't stand to see my sister do well. So, I deliberately brought the wedding dress home the day before Tom visited my parents and hung it in a visible spot, making sure Daisy would snoop. Sure enough, she stole that wedding dress. When Daisy saw Mom's head, I was afraid she would recognize Mom. But Mom's face had too many scars, covering her original appearance. Plus Daisy was too scared to look closely. Everything else unfolded according to my plan, but I didn't expect Daisy to harm Tom for her own benefit. I glanced at the ghost that had floated in, then looked up at Daisy. "Do you know Tom died? All because of the clothes you gave him." Daisy was startled at first, then coldly replied, Dying for me is his honor. Do you really think I liked him? He was so cheap and just average looking, a total jerk. I only wanted to steal him because you liked him. Daisy lowered her head, her voice getting softer and softer, the last part barely audible. Tom stood in front of her, shocked, his soul swaying unsteadily. I shook my head, not wanting to dwell on this anymore. I turned to my stepmom. Now can you tell me? My stepmom bit her lip and slowly began. It's true I arranged to meet Anne, and it's true that person killed her, but… She glanced at my dad. That murderer was my ex-husband. That single sentence shocked not only me but also my dad. Only then did I learn that my stepmom had called my mom that day, saying she wanted to meet to discuss breaking up with my dad. My mom thought she was going to meet the other woman, and dressed up beautifully. But it turned out my stepmom's ex-husband was forcing her for money, and she had no choice but to trick my mom into going there, then kidnapped my mom for ransom. The kidnapper saw my mom and was overcome with lust. My mom wasn't a pushover, she kicked him in his privates and tried to escape, but my stepmom locked the door first. Enraged, the kidnapper stabbed my mom. He went berserk, slashing my mom's body and face 17 times, and finally cut off her head. As she lay in a pool of blood, she was still looking in the direction of home. She must have been thinking, my Annie hasn't eaten yet. How could you? My dad roared, his fists slamming down on the table, his whole body trembling. My stepmom hugged Daisy, sobbing uncontrollably. I watched them with cold eyes, finding it utterly ridiculous. If it weren't for them, how would my mom have gone to that meeting? And how would she have died so horribly? Now they're pretending to be so heartbroken? And pretending to repent? Mom held her head by my side, looking incredibly pained, her soul shaking violently. Ah! With a series of shrill, angry roars, the lights in the room exploded one by one. Only 2 wall sconces remained, flickering on and off. Grace, open the door, or else I'll haunt you even after I'm dead. Memories flooded into my mom's mind like a dam breaking. Resentment, anger, and unwillingness amplified infinitely. Everyone present heard her screams, and even saw Mom's ghostly form, enlarged several times over. My stepmom, Grace, stopped crying, her face deathly pale, her mouth agape, staring blankly at Mom. Anne? You're Anne? My stepmom stood up, then fell to her knees, her head thudding against the floor. I'm sorry, please let me go. Please. She pleaded, then crawled to my side on her knees, trying to grab my hand. Annie, please ask your mom to let us go. I really know I was wrong. I'll spend the rest of my life chanting scriptures and copying them for her. I looked at her coldly, then raised my hand and slapped her across the face. My mom felt this desperate too, didn't she? Who let her go? The only escape route for her was cruelly locked by you. Didn't she cry out? Didn't she beg for help? When she begged you to let her go, what were you doing? You were stabbing her with every knife. My hands clenched into fists. I punched my own chest, screaming heartbrokenly, my voice almost hoarse. I looked up, letting tears stream down my face and into my collar. The cold, wet sensation calmed me down. Today no one is leaving. I calmly walked to the door and locked it with a click. No. Daisy stumbled over, trying to snatch the key from my hand, but I kicked her to the ground. At the same time, Mom fully regained her memory, floating in midair and looking down at my stepmom, radiating dense black energy. Grace, I want you to have no peace even in death. I don't know where my dad found the courage, but he lunged forward, shielding my stepmom. And calm down. Get lost. Mom waved her hand, sending my dad flying. He hit the wall, and blood flowed from his head. My dad completely passed out. Then Mom tore my stepmom to shreds. As my stepmom's soul left her body, Mom swallowed it whole. Daisy was terrified and frantically banged on the door, continuously begging me to let her go. I looked up at Tom. Each person must ultimately bear their own karma. I opened the door. Daisy ran out hysterically, with Tom following close behind. Mom turned to look at me, her dark eyes suddenly seeming to well up with tears. But ghosts don't cry. She whimpered and hugged me. I'm sorry Mom scared you. I wanted to say, Mom, I'm not scared, but my mouth opened and closed, unable to make a sound. I could only shake my head frantically. Mom pushed me away and gently wiped the tears from my face. But after wiping for a long time, she couldn't get them clean and could only look at me with a helpless smile. My darling, you're so beautiful, you'll ruin it if you keep crying. I've always been vain since I was little, and whenever she said that, I'd immediately stop crying. But this time I couldn't stop. I don't know how long I cried, but I was so tired that I collapsed onto the floor, leaning against my mom. Even though I couldn't feel her warmth, I felt incredibly happy. Annie, do you know what Mom's biggest wish is? I turned my head to look at her. She was afraid of scaring me, so she put her head back in place. She gently stroked my face, her eyes filled with a smile. Mom's biggest wish is for you to live a life of peace and happiness. Can you promise Mom that? Tears blurred my vision again, and I choked out, Mom, I promise. Mom nodded in satisfaction, the corners of her mouth curving upwards. But I could feel her soul becoming clearer and gradually dissipating. I watched her without blinking, wanting to engrave her appearance into my mind. She seemed to understand my intention, keeping a gentle smile and looking at me lovingly. Before completely dissipating, Mom left her last words. Next life, I still want to be your mom and love you more for a few years. I opened my palm and caressed the spot where Mom used to be, replying, Mom, you have to keep your word. The next day, news of Daisy's death arrived. She was hit by a car, but I knew Tom was responsible. My dad woke up. He transferred all his property to me, then voluntarily turned himself in, claiming he killed my stepmom. Years later, I wore an identical wedding dress and married the man who cherished me my whole life. Mom, look. I did it. 100 years later, a young and beautiful woman gave birth to a daughter. She said, let's call her Annie. This time, they lived happily ever after. The end.